Good evening. Today is Monday, 24th of January 2022. The time is 8 p.m. in Canberra. We'll begin the weekly Bangla radio program from Canberra 2XX Community Radio Station. This program is being broadcasted by the courtesy of Community Broadcasting Foundation Limited and Bangladeshi Australia Association in Canberra. Every Monday at 8 p.m. this program is broadcast on FM 98.3 MHz. Tonight the program is presented by me, Adnin Zahid,
and me, Adiba, Ahmed.
Tonight's program will be about Australia Day, modern culture and being Bengali Australians. Okay, so Australia Day. What is Australia Day, Adiba?
So Australia Day is you may just know, is a national public holiday held annually on January 26th to honour the establishment of the first permanent European settlement on the continent of Australia. In 1788, on January 26th, Arthur Phillip sailed into what is now known as Sydney Cove with a shipload of convicts, and he hoisted the British flag at the site. In the early 1800s, the date was called Foundation Day. It was then called Anniversary Day. And in 1836, the first anniversary regatta, still held as the Australia Day Regatta, and the oldest such sailing race in the world, was run in Sydney Harbour. In 1838, on the 50th anniversary of the settlement, official public celebrations were held for the first time. There were centenary celebrations throughout the continent in 1888, and in 1938, on the 150th anniversary, the day was proclaimed an official holiday. And soon, in another 50 years, not soon, January 26th became a national public holiday. And in an effort to end the practice in some areas of celebrating the day on the closest Monday, there was agreement reached in 1994 that the holiday would be observed on the actual date. And therefore, Australia Day this year will be celebrated on Wednesday, January 26, 2022, in 2 days.
Exciting. I would say, government and military officials have long taken a prominent role in celebrations of Australia Day, which this includes many public ceremonies. And beginning in the 1940s, with increased immigration to Australia, the day actually became a time for naturalisation ceremonies. Although celebrations originally focused on the anniversary of the British occupation of New South Wales, since 1979, the federal government has promoted an Australia Day that was less British and more Australian in the hopes of unifying Australia's increasingly diverse population, which of course we know of and can attest to today. Definitely does not feel like a British Day. Australia Day definitely feels like an Australian Day because, there's sporting events, including horse races and regattas. People, the festivities often end with fireworks. But since the late 20th century, Australia's First Nations people and their supporters have actually criticised Australia Day celebrations as excessively nationalistic and have sought greater recognition both of them as the original Indigenous inhabitants of the continent and the experiences that they have faced due to European settlement. So it's kind of like there are two sides to kind of Australia Day, and then there's probably one side that we don't see as much, and there's probably one side that we do see and celebrate more.
I think is given a lot more representation in the media.
Yeah. When if you do talk to our First Nations people, Australia Day means something very different to them. And we have talked about it in our previous episodes that we did on Australia Day around what Australia Day means for Indigenous Australians.
Yes, because it's seen that not enough attention is given to what they have suffered historically.
Yeah.
And so there are efforts of reconciliation. So our First Peoples, they are the traditional custodians of our beautiful lands and waterways, and they have a fundamental role in the Australian story. Australia Day should increasingly include a recognition and be celebrated by all Australians of importance, which includes our First Peoples. And January 26th has multiple meanings. It's Australia Day for some, but for others it is also known as Survival Day or Invasion Day. The First Nations people of Australia have mixed feelings about celebrating this day, and as we were just talking about, some consider it a day of mourning, others use it to mark the survival of their ongoing traditions and cultures. First Nations people may be just as proud of this country as any other Australians, but many see the date signifying the beginning of dispossession, disease epidemics, frontier violence, destruction of culture, exploitation, separation of families, and subjection to policies of extreme social control. And it's really important that these views are respected and that we collectively have constructive conversations about this history and seek ways to move forward together as a nation. Our National Day provides an opportunity to acknowledge and learn about our nation's past. It's a time to reflect on and learn about our national journey, including the ongoing history, traditions, and cultures of our First Nations people.
Another thing that happens on Australia Day is you have the Australian of the Year award ceremony held in Canberra, I believe. And so yeah, each evening from the 23rd to the 26th, Canberra will be lit up for Australia Day in the capital. The Carillon will be illuminated with colourful imagery, prominently displaying the faces of the Australians of the Year. These larger-than-life projections will celebrate these amazing individuals and the contributions they make to Australia. Last year, I believe the Australian of the Year was Great Tame, so it'll be interesting to see who will be this year. Going back to kind of what is going on around Canberra, nearby the national attractions will be illuminated in campfire colours, embracing the idea of lighting a campfire, where people can come together to share food, stories and belongings. So I'm sure there'll be many, many, many picnics on Australia Day, as there always is, and the lake will be alive with people, although maybe with COVID not so much, but I think Australia Day people will come out, definitely. COVID won't stop them, I reckon.
From 10 a.m. at the Narra Peace Park in Yarralumla, there'll be an Australian Day concert, which includes singing, dancing, martial arts, Aboriginal performance, and music instruments. If by any chance COVID gets worse and public gatherings not permitted, then it will be held online through Zoom.
Oh, okay, that's nice. There you go. So they've got all bases covered.
Yeah, pretty cool.
But I guess, yeah, I still think that around, because everyone has a day off, of course, it is a national public holiday. I think people will today, like what traditions are today, if we're talking about Australia Day today in 2022, the traditions will remain, and they are to kind of, have some food, have a barbecue. I feel like I've always kind of had barbecues on Australia Day, even within the Bengali community. We've always kind of got together and had a big Aussie feed, I guess. So I think there'll be lots of people getting together outdoors. Maybe not as much indoors, hopefully. But outdoors, having picnics, having barbecues, and just getting together, playing a bit of backyard cricket, a bit of probably kicking the footy around. Yeah, but I think in terms of if we were to say traditions and customs for Australia Day.
Well, there's also another one happening. The Bangladeshi Seniors Club in Canberra, they are hosting a Australia Day festival and barbecue at CIC, the Canberra Mosque. And so there'll be a festival with Bangla culture, dress food stalls, a community barbecue, and live entertainment.
Oh, okay, that's really good to hear.
Yeah, so it seems like that's going for a while. If it starts at 11 and finishing at 6.
Oh, wow, okay, all day. Yeah, that's really interesting. So I guess that's something, an Australia Day. Australia Day isn't just something that's celebrated by, it's celebrated by migrants as well, I guess, like our families. I would say all different communities kind of have their own Australia Day celebrations. For example, us as Bengali Australians, or say Sri Lankan Australians, or Indian Australians, they all kind of do still congregate and come together just to celebrate. I guess I think it's really good because on Australia Day, it's just a day to relax. It's a January. I think everyone's in a bit of a relaxed mood anyway from the holidays. Yeah. But it's just a day to sit back, relax, and enjoy what this country has to offer, I think.
And going off what you were saying, that migrants celebrate it, the Pakistani Australia Friendship Association is also celebrating Australia Day at the National Museum of Australia from 12:30. That's great.
And is it going to be food and dance and?
They're doing a restricted COVID event with only 200 participants. But there will be a buffet lunch and there'll be activities performed by various people and children.
Where is this one again, sorry?
This one's at the National Museum of Australia.
Oh, that'd be nice. That's a really good location to have kind of an event. You get the view of the griffin and hopefully and normally I feel like Australia Day puts it on in terms of the weather. The weather is like always pretty good on Australia Day.
Yeah, that's a good thing about January weather, except for like this January has been a bit more wet than I feel like we're used to. But yeah, we tend to have good weather in January.
Any traditions or customs that you yourself have on Australia Day?
Not me.
Or your family?
Like if there's Bengali stuff on, then we will sometimes take part of that. Like last year, I helped MC an event. But I feel like it's almost like just given what I'm seeing on the ACT events on the Australia Day website, and seeing there's just a bit more of a majority of like migrant-led events. I'm almost thinking this is like it's a very like a cultural thing that's being brought across from those countries. Like, in Bangladesh, like we celebrate a lot of different things like national holidays, but I feel like we come from a culture where a lot of like not activities, but like performances, it's very common to attend these things. It's very common to sort of bring people together and want to do like singing events or performance events, fashion show events. Like I feel like that's something that like Bengalis like in my whole growing up in Canberra, and I'm sure you experienced this too growing up. We grew up together. It's a very Bengali thing and a very, from what I hear, Pakistani and Indian thing as well. I'm very amused at the ACT events that most of the things seem to be Bengali, Pakistan, like migrant.
Oh my gosh. I guess that is still kind of embracing the spirit of Australia Day. Australia Day isn't about like one, it's about one nation, but it's about all the like minorities that make up that one nation.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's just like that, and it's just reflective of Australia today. Like Australia is made up of migrants. That's what our history is. Like like there was the indigenous people and the First Nations people, and then we all came as migrants, and that's what the makeup of Australia is today. It's migrants. So it's fitting. Like if you think about it, if there wasn't any kind of migrant-led events, then it'd be very not inclusive. It'd be very almost uninviting, and that's not the spirit of Australia Day.
No. In fact, I think the different organisations that are in charge of celebrating national holidays in Australia, they go out of their way to be inclusive. Like they offer grants and they offer opportunities for whoever wants. Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. They make it fairly a straightforward process. Like if you have an idea, if you want to do something, then this is where you just get in touch with us. We'll if it works, then we'll try to make it work. We'll give you funding. Like I really like that about growing up in Canberra. I feel like different things that I've attended over the years, like there will be an ACT component to it, like where the ACT minister has been a part of it, or there's been some sort of ACT funding. So I'm only speaking from an ACT perspective here, but we are Bangla Radio Canberra. But that's something I really appreciate, being that Canberra, in a way, it's small, so we know of these things. But yeah, it's good to see. I was very happy to read that there's these migrant-led ACT events.
I would say that it's not just specific to the ACT as well. I would say that like across Sydney, across Melbourne, and across other states and territories, for Australia Day, there would be some migrant-led events or some different nationalities hosting different events as well, which is again really good to see. Really, really good to see.
So speaking about all
this year?
No, because I'm still being a hermit. I'm not really trying to get out there in the public. Like I was gonna do stuff on my birthday, but put a pin in that.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think even I feel like maybe Australia Day is also some people do go on road trips and like just get away from their normal kind of habitat, or just go down to the beach, of course. How very Australian.
I'm very Australian, to go to the beach. Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
when you go to the
particularly,
beach,
like,
it's not like you
yeah,
see one nationality, you see everyone's at the beach. Like you see Sanju, you see New Zealand, you see Bangla people, you'll see Persian people, you'll see everyone. Like it's again very, very multicultural and shows Australia. Even on
yeah.
the beach.
And I feel like it's good depending on the day it falls as well. Like if you get a long weekend, then that like affords the opportunity to go and have like a little bit of a weekend getaway.
Yeah.
Like we were gonna go to
Right.
Sydney. That was our plan. Like we were turning our Australia Day to taking 2 days off to getting to my birthday. So pretty much we were gonna spend 5 days in Sydney, but unfortunately due to COVID, those plans were cancelled.
Yeah, you're right. You know, that's actually a good point because I think that Australians love long weekends.
Yeah,
And
that's a very
especially
Australian thing.
Australia Day long weekend. So this, yeah, the fact that Australia Day is falling smack bang in the middle of the week, it might not go off as much as it normally does. But yeah, I think like it's still good to like even just do a day trip or go see family or just get out of town or just do something that you normally wouldn't do. And I think that's what hopefully a lot of people, Australians, will be doing this year. But yeah, still keeping it a bit low key in COVID safe.
Yeah, keeping
And of
it
course, a
cool.
lot of people, like it would be remiss not to mention the fact that a lot of people will be in isolation.
Yeah.
A lot of people will have COVID, and a lot of people will have very unfortunate Australia Day, and some people did with their Christmases as well. So can be quite an unfortunate time for some as well.
Yeah, but I hope things will be good for as many people as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking about like how we celebrate now, but like it also makes me kind of think of culture in general and modern culture, and I guess being Australian Bengali. Do you like that term? Do you consider yourself Australian Bengali or Bengali Australian?
I guess so. Like for me, I mean, I feel like yeah, like even if someone was to ask me, like you know, like I don't know, like where are you from or like what are you? I'd be like Australian, but also Bengali. Like, well, my parents are Bengali, but I'm Australian Bengali. Like, I would struggle just to say one without the other. Like, I feel like both terms are and have to be mentioned. So yeah, Australian Bengali. I think I would categorize myself in that category because I'm not just Australian, I'm not just Bengali, I'm both. So I think I do relate to that term definitely. What about yourself?
I like Bengali Canberra.
Okay, that's very niche.
Yeah, because I find that as time goes on, I don't know, and I feel like this is a general statement that can be made. I'm not sure that the general culture of Australia is very nationalist in recent years. I don't know if you agree from your own experiences. I can't speak for your experiences, of course, but I kind of find that we're not very nationalistic in recent years. And while I think pride of country is important, I don't know if that's necessarily there in recent years. But I'm very proud of being Canberran, and I'm very proud of being like Bengali, and I'm very proud of being Australian. But I find that I really identify with being Canberran above all.
I think there's a term for that. It's called parochialism. I think it's called, where it's like people or groups of people have a very limited or narrow outlook, and it's focused in local areas. So basically, like it's like you're focused in your own area. So Australia is there is quite a lot of parochialism in Australia in that. I think we saw it especially during COVID, where each state was like fending for themselves and shutting borders left, right, and like you're not allowed in, you're allowed in. And
there were jokes about WA seceding.
Yeah. So it's called parochialism. So I think you're right. That's probably a very good point actually. The way that you identify as Australian Bengali, not just, sorry, Canberran Bengali, was it?
Yeah, Canberran Bengali.
Interesting. Okay. What does Canberran Bengali mean? Like why do you identify as that?
I think that for me, I think in terms of home, like what home feels like, and to me, home will always be Canberra. And I don't mean to be exclusionary when I say this, but like I guess maybe being born here and having so many of my foundational years here, that's probably why I feel most aligned with Canberra. But in saying that, I know my sister, she came to Australia and she came to Melbourne. So she really identifies as like being Melburnian. She's not.
Oh, what? How long did you live in Melbourne?
God, how long did they live in Melbourne? I think my parents came to Canberra in 1991, so they were in Melbourne. So she always wanted to go back to live in Melbourne, and that's something I could not relate to. And then she had a chance, because we did Canberra, Adelaide, Perth, and then because my sister got married in between.
I didn't know you were in Adelaide. What?
Oh yeah, we left Canberra to move to Adelaide. And then we hated Adelaide and we were all miserable, but that was because we were missing Canberra, and Dad couldn't get an easy way back to Canberra, so the next best thing was to go to Perth. And then it was basically like us leaving Canberra and like us wanting to somehow get back to Canberra, because the way that it happened was we spent a miserable year in Adelaide where we were all miserable. We didn't really find that the same Bengali culture was there.
Yeah.
Like the sense of community, like it's there, but they're all a bit older. So I didn't relate to anyone. My parents also didn't necessarily relate. And then we made really close friends with a few people who moved from Perth, and they really wanted to go back to Perth. So then we all moved to Perth, and then that was a different experience where I felt like some of those kids were a bit too westernized for me. Like, I don't know, like it basically, no matter what we were doing, it was just not Canberra. And so once we realized, like, you know, how
Canberra's where it's at.
Canberra's where it's at. And then, cause when mum, she unfortunately couldn't get her job to be moved straight. So she had to go on a year leave without pay. And then, so when that year was up, she was forced to move back to Adelaide. And then she didn't want to live there without us. We didn't want to live there without her. So that's when she made a lot of effort to come back to Canberra. And when she got her job back in Canberra, that's when she brought me with her. And then eventually my whole family ended back up in Canberra. But before that, my sister and my brother-in-law did a year and a half in Melbourne, where my sister got to live her little Melburnian dream.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And then we all ended up in Canberra. So it was this long detour, like, back to Canberra.
Yeah, back to Canberra. So fair enough. Like, all roads lead to Canberra for you.
For me, definitely.
Okay, interesting. In terms of, like, I guess, like, being Bengali Australian, like, I think that we're seeing a lot more Bengali Australians kind of in mainstream media, and, like, it's a term that, like, more and more people are relating to and that we're seeing more in social media. I think where I've seen it is in, like, fashion, in the fashion industry, like, and even food, like, Bangladesh is, like, coming on the map, whereas maybe a couple of years ago, people would be like, what's that? Like, what country is that? Whereas people now, like, know what Bengali food is, and there's, like, Bengali restaurants popping around in local suburbs. In terms of the fashion, there's definitely Bengali fashion designers, especially in, like, Sydney, Melbourne. I think, like, maybe Canberra, not so much. But Sydney, Melbourne, and they're taking Australia by storm, they're taking the world by storm. So I think this Australian Bengali is here to stay, this term.
Yeah, and when I say, like, I feel like I'm Canberra Bengali, that's not that I don't support people who identify differently. Like, I definitely support anyone who, like, I support everyone. I definitely don't mean to be exclusionary when I say that. So, like, people who I know who do identify more as Australian Bengali, I just love that we have that sense of pride within us, that even though we might be sort of growing up here in Australia, we still do try to keep that culture of Bangladesh, like, rich and alive. And I think that's...
Yeah, and it's good that it's, like, being in the media as well. Like, I think that's, like, I know a Bengali fashion blogger, like, she's a model, actually. Bengali model blogger, and, like, on her Instagram page, like, she has her own beauty line now, and but on her page, like, she posted a photo and it was, like, it's very Bengali. She was actually at a Bengali restaurant. She was eating, like, khichdi, and, like, she posted a photo, like, eating with her hands. And she's got quite a large following, so a lot of people were like, wait, what? And she's like, this is how we do it. This is literally, like, how we do it in Bangladesh. Like, we eat with our hands. And I think she was, like, teaching her friends as well, like, how to properly eat at that restaurant.
My nieces give me side eye when I eat with my hands. And I'm like, no, we're not raising you guys right. Like, number 1 is eat with your hands, number 2 is eat with a fork, and number 3 is try chopsticks. Now, they're going
God,
to...
I don't know. I don't think we ever get to number 2. My parents never taught me number 2 and 3. It was just eat with your hands. The Bengali only way. It's actually the best way. There are some foods that you should only ever eat with your hands, in my opinion.
Oh, no, I feel like there's no better way to enjoy food.
Bengali food.
Bengali
and other food.
and other food. Like, you know, there's nothing like, because I get, my parents really get annoyed if they ever see that my rice has gone higher than gone into my palm. Then they're like, oh, that's not, loki, like, that's oloki. What's the translation of loki? Like I don't.
Doesn't loki mean like nice, good?
Good, it means good. But I don't think that's like the proper translation, because like obviously you're not a bad person if you fish your palms. I guess like maybe elegant. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure about the direct translation.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Like you're not eating elegant with your hands.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah. But I'm like to them like, but if it's gotten to that point, that's because I'm so into the food that I'm shoving it in my mouth. Yeah. It's actually a compliment that my head's gotten messy, because that means I've given up on my decorum. I'm just enjoying the food.
Yeah, that's very Bengali, eating with your hands.
Yeah, but going back to fashion, what in terms of modern fashion, or like fashion that does attempt to mix cultures, you've spoken about some good examples, but I feel like I also see examples where people are trying to subvert culture. Like they see that coming from a strong cultural background, or more of a traditional cultural background, that is quite restrictive. So they find that they identify with sort of, while keeping some recognition of those roots, they want to sort of spin it on its head. And so, you know, I've seen different interpretations where maybe they're like,
there are definitely like there's everything on the spectrum. There's very, very traditional where like nothing is budged. There's in the middle, and then there's people that are kind of like going out there and really redefining what Bengali fashion or Indian fashion or means. But again, it's all part of the two cultures mashing together somehow and to some different degrees.
And self-expression, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a key part of it. I feel like, you know, for different designers who might be doing those different things, I feel like maybe that it's not right to sort of see these as an observer and be like, oh, whatever they're producing is a commentary on what they think combined culture is like, or intersectionality is like. Maybe it's just what that particular designer thinks, and that's fine. Like, everyone's entitled to their view, everyone's entitled to their opinion. Maybe it's not the case.
Different people will connect with different people as well, you know?
Definitely. And like you were talking about, it's a spectrum.
It is a spectrum, indeed.
I think you've also spoken about, you know, one day maybe you'll launch your own line. So I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, look, I don't know if I'll launch my own line, but I think if I was to ever like launch, let's do a business or something, I think it would have influence from Australia and Bangladesh as well, whether it's a food business, whether it's a fashion business, but I don't know, whatever business it is. If I was to ever do something, I think it would definitely have Australian Bengaliness to it.
We've now reached the end of our program. We hope that you've enjoyed tonight's program. We invite you to send your opinions of Bangla Radio Canberra to the following email: banglaradio@gmail.com. You are invited to follow Bangla Radio on Twitter and Facebook. If you join our Bangla Radio Facebook group, we will send you our weekly program description. The next Bangla Radio program will be broadcasted next Monday at 8 p.m. We welcome you to join us. Wherever you are, we hope that you stay well in peace and happiness.